Welcome to ANS Solver question 5 of this paper. So for part A, they are asking us to calculate the speed of when he runs from C to A. They've given us the speed that he runs from A to B and B to C. Now, the formula to calculate speed is equal to distance by time. So the distance to calculate, so we have to calculate his speed that when he runs from C to A. So the distance from C to A is 150 meters and divided by the time, but we don't know the time, but they have given us the entire journey's average speed, and they have given us the speed of the remaining two sides. So we can calculate the time of the entire journey and subtract the time of the other two sides from the entire journey's time. So the entire journey is 450 meters, so we divide it by 3.6, as they've told us that 3.6 is the average speed for the entire journey, minus the time taken from A to B, and then minus the time taken from B to C, that which will give us the time taken from C to A. And since the formula is distance by time, we will then get our answer for speed. So minus, for A to B, the distance is 120 divided by the speed, which is 4 meters per second, as they've given us in the question itself. And the same thing for B to C. So the distance is 180 meters divided by the speed, which is 3 meters per second, as they've given us in the question itself again. So now all we need to do is simplify this working. So 450 divided by 3.6, which is 125. So we can write 150 divided by 125 minus 120 by 4, which is 30, minus 180 by 3, which is 60. So therefore this would be equal to 125 minus 30 minus 60. So it would be equal to 150 divided by 35. And therefore your final answer for part A would be 150 divided by 35, which is equal to 4.285714. And since we need to give our answer in three significant figures, your final answer will be 4.29 meters per second. Now this is because the fourth significant figure, which is 5 in this case, is greater than or equal to 5. So it will round off the 8 to the next number. So therefore 4.29 meters per second will be our final answer for part A. Now let's move to part B, where they are asking us to use the cosine rule to find the angle BAC. So that is this angle. Now since we know all three sides of the triangle, we can easily solve this question. So let's solve this. So the formula is a square is equal to b square plus c square minus 2bc multiplied by cos A. Now this capital A represents the angle that is opposite to the so that is the angle opposite to the basically that's the angle that we are finding, and A with the small a is the side opposite to the angle that we are finding. So A has to be 180 in this case. So 180 square, because it's a square, is equal to, now B and C you can take either side, that is 150 or 120, that doesn't matter. So 150 square plus 120 square, or vice versa, minus 2 times 150 times 120 multiplied by cos A. So we can take 150 square plus 120 square to the other side of the equation. So it will become 180 square minus 150 square minus 120 square, which is equal to 2 times negative 2 times 150 multiplied by 120 multiplied by cos A. So let's simplify this a bit. So 150 square is equal to 22,500 plus 120 square. So the total of both of them is 36,900. Now 180 square is equal to 32,400 minus 36,900 is equal to negative 4,500. So I'll just recheck this once. So 180 square minus 150 square minus 120 square is equal to negative 4,500, which is equal to 2 times 150 times 120, which is equal to 36,000. So negative 36,000, because it's negative 2, is equal to, not is equal to, sorry, multiplied by cos A. Therefore cos A is equal to 4,500 divided by 36,000. So the minus and minus will get cancelled, therefore it will remain positive. I'll just write on the right hand side now, so there's more space. Yeah. So we can cancel 2 zeros firstly from this, so it will be 45 divided by 360. Now we can take cos to the other side of the equation, so it will become cos inverse of 45 by 360, because whenever you take a function to the other side of the equation, it becomes the inverse of the function. So 45 divided by 360 is equal to 82.81. That is not 45 divided by 360, that is cos inverse of 45 divided by 360 is equal to 82.8192,442. So therefore A is equal to 82.8 degrees. Therefore this will be our final answer for part B. So 82.8 degrees will be this, 82.8. Now let's move to part C1. So for part C1, they are telling us that the bearing of C from A is 210 degrees. So 210 degrees minus 82.8. That would be the remaining part of this angle, which is 127.2 degrees. This is because they are telling us that the bearing C from A. So from A, as they've already drawn a line upwards, so from that line, and we have to move clockwise always while finding a bearing, we have to always move in the clockwise direction. So therefore 180, not 180, the entire angle, which is 210 in this case, minus 82.8 will give us the remaining part of that angle, which is 127.2 degrees. So therefore, let's move to part C1, where they are asking us to find the bearing of B from A. So the bearing of B from A, so that would be this angle that we just found. So your final answer for part C1 will be 127.2 degrees. Now let's move to part C2, where they are asking us to find the bearing of A from B. So the bearing of A from B, so you start from B and you go clockwise, but so we can find this small angle first and then minus it by from 360 to find that bearing. So because angles on a straight line add up to 180, so 180 minus 127.2 is equal to 52.8, sorry. So yeah, I'll just point it here, 52.8 degrees. Now since angles in a circle add up to 360, so your final answer for part 3 C2 will be 360 minus 52.8, which is equal to 307.2 degrees. Now let's move to part D of this question. So for part D, they are asking us to calculate the distance from D to A, and they are telling us D is a point on AC that is nearest to B. Okay, so for these type of questions, what you do is you draw a perpendicular from from B, and again use a pencil and a ruler so it comes as accurate as possible. And you draw a perpendicular such that this angle between the side AC and the line will look 90 degrees. Then you would have shown the that is where B is closest to the line AC. So since this would be 90 degrees, my bad, since this would be 90 degrees, we have a right angle triangle. So I'll just draw it separately over here. So the right angle triangle looks somewhat like this. So the right angle, we have one angle inside that is 82.8 degrees. 82.8 degrees. Now we have the hypotenuse of the triangle, in this case, which is AB. So that is 120 meters. So we can label that as 120. And so this is the side. So AB, and the third side would be D. A, B, D. We have just labeled the triangle. Now it is way easier to solve such a question. So they are asking us to calculate the distance from D to A. So that would be this distance. So we can simply use the trigonometric functions to find our final answer for part D. So we can use the cos rule. So therefore we can write cos of 82.8 is equal to the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. So x divided by 120. Therefore x will be equal to cos 82.8 divided by 120. So you would get your final answer as, which is cos 82.8 multiplied by 120. So that will give you a final answer of 15 meters. And therefore this is your final answer for part D of this question.